Woo! Hello, everybody. We're gonna be reacting to game prices are collapsing, publishers were wrong.
And with today's story, it seems the rest of the industry is also beginning to hear you. Now, this year started with the fear that gaming is getting more expensive. Microsoft and Nintendo pushed the
definitely is.
ceiling to $80, an impossibly high ask, especially as everything else has got more and more pricey.
I remember when games got up to $60, and I was like, that is no way. That is insanity. It blows my mind. The prices things are now. Oh my God.
But elsewhere in the industry, something quieter is happening. And it's this. The games that you are actually buying, well, we've got the data about them. And as it turns out, they're getting cheaper. $100 for Grand Theft Auto 6.
That's
was the
insane.
rumor that kicked off this year's anxiety about game prices. It was one that Take-Two have been happy to downplay.
It's like, at this point, it's going to become a luxury to be a gamer. A big point is due to AI. NVIDIA just announced that it's going to reduce production of their graphics card, I think by 40%. I may be wrong, so I'll try to check up on that. But also, RAM has been reduced because it's being used for AI companies. So I think we're gonna be priced out of being gamers. So it's not great. It's not a great time to be a gamer, and it's not a great time to be an artist. That's for sure.
If not outright refute. But with GTA now delayed, we won't know the truth until next autumn, though we've already seen audiences reject the new price ceiling of
Yeah,
$80.
I won't get that
Xbox
game if it's
tried to
$100.
pitch the
I
Outer
will
Worlds 2
I will wait for the Grand Theft Auto Waifu Edition, the anime one. I'm more excited about this at this point.
at $80, presumably buying some headroom for Microsoft's lovely 30% profit margin demand. But they quickly reversed that decision. The inference from that? They didn't see enough pre-orders. People essentially voted with their wallet. Just that, unlike real votes, the
Yeah,
great thing
because
about
that's an
voting with your
insane
wallet is
price.
you don't need to do anything to cast your vote. It turns out audiences just wouldn't pay that price for The Outer Worlds 2. But you know what they would pay? The regular price. Because, selling at a normal price, the game did have a top 10 launch. Though, the right product at $80 will sell. Mario Kart World kind of
I
proved
can't
that.
believe someone
Even
will spend
bundling with Switch
$80
2
on
for many
Mario
buyers,
Kart.
you don't get a 92% attach rate across 9.57 million copies without lots of people shelling out the full amount. But that's only one
so
side of
much
the
money.
story, because the reality we need to dive into today is about how off-console prices have been plummeting. But there's a not so funny thing hanging over all of this, and it's the simple fact that video game spending is actually falling, but subscriptions
Well, we're getting a lot of games daily in Steam. Like, if you check, there are like hundreds of games coming out a day. Though a large majority is AI slop, there is a lot of games, and honestly, indie games are becoming more interesting to play because they have passion, they have artwork. They may be janky here and there, but they're also affordable.
are rising. We've seen that in analyst reports, and too often, well, we're paying for subs we don't use. That's why Rocket Money is today's video sponsor, because they make it easy to get a handle on your subscriptions and get saving.
Yeah,
and
and
you can even get
that's
started today for free
Rocket
to its
Money
contract
stuff.
price. I was able to renegotiate a split with paperwork,
There we go.
and I actually did that negotiation late. And by doing it late, I basically wasted a bunch of money. So with the likes of
Yeah,
Rocket
make
Money
sure
being able to
your
help, you
money
can
isn't
actually
getting
go and make
wasted.
progress in those things way more easily. And that is the huge value of Rocket Money. They make it all easy.
The problem is for me is that I have to have money first.
They've helped save customers up to $740 a year when using all of their apps premium. Probably plenty of median prices
There we go.
for the excellent Game Discover Co newsletter. He tracked average and median prices for the top 50 new monthly games on Steam during that period of time, ranked by copy sold, and you're looking at the graphs now. We see a median price as low as $10, as high as $20, with averages between $16 and $29. Shocker, Steam users are thrifty people who like deals. We probably didn't need this much analysis to work that out, but that's not where I'm ending.
If you're not buying a game on sale on Steam, what are you doing?
here's where things get truly interesting. From February 2023 to October 2025, the average amount of money spent on a best-selling game went down by 2%. The median, though, it went down by 20%. That means that more games are selling at a lower price. And whenever Carlos took a look at the
I think it's because like we know that they're gonna be there forever on Steam, and why spend $60 on a game when you can wait like a year or two, maybe like 3 years. It'll be like $5.
revenue earned, the trend actually held. Now, in theory, that should favor more expensive games. They generate more revenue per sale. But even there, the median dropped from $23.75 to $20.35. That's about 14% of a drop. And do bear in mind that as this has been happening, the currency has been inflating. So even as players feel like they are being pressured towards $80 games, what they're actually buying is getting cheaper and cheaper. And what's key is that this is not showing us what has
And the
been
games
offered to
have
players.
been like
It's showing us
not. I'm not saying Mario Kart because I didn't play Mario Kart, but a lot of the expensive games the past few years have come out and they're buggy. They're not completed. Like if you're gonna shell out premium prices, like the game should be premium, and it doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're releasing games in beta or alpha
what
stages.
players have actually chosen. It's showing the best-selling premium games on the platform, and that does feel like a bit of a win, right? That we are
Oh, I
seeing
love the
smaller
Clover Pit.
teams with cheaper games beginning to dominate the sales space. That says a lot
Hmm.
for the value of Steam, and in a world where people would have to compare the
I don't know
price
what
of
the
a full
game was,
console
but it
plus a
looked
subscription
fun.
for multiplayer and more expensive games, and weigh that up to a Steam machine with generally far cheaper games, well, I think it also makes the Steam machine look stronger as well. Overall, though, it's somewhat validating an argument you see all the time, right? The argument people make every time someone suggests an $80 price point, which is that you make your profit in aggregate. So make your games cheaper and then more people will buy them. Buying 4 $20 indie games is to many people better than one $80 AAA game.
Yep.
Surely that's what's going on. Surely that's what
That's
everyone
not.
is doing.
I don't think that's the only reason.
Well, ish. Let's look more into the data. Carlos
Yeah.
gave us the perfect example. It's the September releases on Steam, where Silk
I
Song
wanna
sold
try
like
this game.
gangbusters at $20, with 4.6 million copies shifted on Steam alone. That's nearly double the sales of a full-price title like Borderlands 4. The immediate takeaway is a lower barrier to entry at the price of a couple of coffees, meaning you give yourself the widest possible audience and a big game. And in theory, that also means that more people can buy more games. But it's actually not quite that simple. You see, regardless of
Mhm.
price, the majority of game players don't actually buy that many games. Circana's Future of Games report surveyed 2,500 US players on self-reported purchase patterns. About a third of the market says they buy just one game or fewer a year. Just
Well, I think also it based on the economy. I don't know about other countries, but America is struggling, man. Uh, we would have to. Some people would have to skip meals over buying a game, and at this rate, people are choosing to take care of their bills and family than to buy a game that may or may not work at this rate.
under two-thirds, 63%, buy fewer than 2 games a year. That is absolutely insane to me, but I suppose when I think about what my norms are, or maybe you do the same, we probably have a sampling bias. One that is in and around enthusiast gamers. We do buy more games, but it seems that with broader audiences, that is less the case. Now, obviously,
Hmm.
that's Circana doing a survey of 2,500 people in the US. It's good enough work, it's hypothesis generating work, but obviously, it is just a survey. Though I would say that when you think about games overall, a lot of it is plausible. You see, a lot of people are only interested in buying this year's sport game or this year's Call of Duty. Well, maybe not this year's Call of Duty. Maybe they bought Battlefield instead.
Or maybe the kind of person that only wants to play this one game they're obsessed with. They like Dead by Daylight or League of Legends, and that's the only game they play. So,
But the majority of any product-based industry is often people who are gently engaged in it, not people, perhaps, like you and me. But it's actually the top of the chart that complicates things here, because those people probably aren't the ones buying indie games for $20 en masse. No, that's the other 37% of people, but even
I
that
mean, yeah,
37% is quite stratified. 22% say they buy a game every 3 months. That's 4 games a year, and that adds up with Valve's own data. Yes, Valve's own data suggests that users played only 4 games on Steam on average in 2023 and 2024. A further 10% buy a new game monthly, which is, of course, great for an industry releasing thousands of games a year. But we need
yeah.
to put this in perspective. If you bought Silksong and any other game in September, 2 games in 1 month, then you are only 4% of the games market. That's kind of wild. And even if we're allowed to some swing and fuzziness because a survey is only as good as the survey, the point, I think, still does stand. And of course, it's a point that we do see in a lot of other things as well. Take whaling, right? Whaling and free-to-play games where the majority of the revenue does come from a
I
very...
have not played any gotcha games because I'm scared. I think I wouldn't be able to go anywhere because I'm like, you're not taking the money.
very small strata of that game's
But
player
they look
base.
so
And when we see
pretty.
data like that, I think we begin to understand why all of those publishers and indie devs moved their releases away from Silksong, or of course, away from GTA 6. And in the case of the indies, it would especially be because most of those indies are at the same price point or cheaper
That looks
than
like
Silksong.
RuneScape. It
So
looks
if
so
you're
fun.
releasing against Silksong, a game with massive cut through to enthusiast audiences, if you're releasing against that, then, well, you're betting on the 4% of the market turning up that does actually buy multiple games a month. That doesn't really seem like a great strategy, does it? And here's the kicker. What if I told you there's another layer? You see, this chart does not distinguish between new games and already released games that are on sale. Every time someone buys a game that's been out for 6 months, they're probably not buying a new game that month to go along with it, regardless.
Honestly, I also think gamers have lost their trust in AAA because of what the industry has produced. Like, it's hard for me to think on the spot on a AAA game that came out that wasn't janky as heck.
Of price. So, more people aren't buying games, even as prices keep trending down. Now, if that is the case, as a bunch of this data suggests, well, why then are audiences feeling like they are constantly being asked for more and more? When people are asked to pay $80 or $70 for a video game, Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony are basically banking on a fairly simple principle, that the people who actually have money will spend it regardless of anything else that's going on. Essentially, they're betting on it being a premium product with inflexible demand. That is why marketing teams target those people. That's why those absurd...
I think it works for Mario though, because Mario is consistent with their products and not being all janky as much. And I
collector's
think that's
editions
why it
exist,
worked.
right? The people who absolutely love games and have money. They're the people these
Dang.
companies can count on. The games industry basically thrives in people who can spend without thinking about it, which has always been the case. Buying more than one $60 game at launch has been unaffordable to people for years. But the problem is the proportion of people with money to spend freely actually does appear to be shrinking. Get this, as of September, the top 10% of earners accounted for 50% of US retail sales. And the very same year, spending in games is actually down. The 18 to 25 age group in the US is spending nearly a quarter less in games this year. And everyone, just
Because
in
games
large,
are a
is down a
luxury.
couple of percent. But on the whole, most game spending is only a few points down. Now,
I can also say that art commissions are down exponentially. Part of it is due to AI, I do want to admit, but I think whenever the economy starts to struggle, then people start to not spend money on what they can't afford, like luxury, like artwork and games, and it sucks.
given
It
we're in rough
super
economic times, that
sucks.
could seem like a good thing, right? Oh, the world is experiencing troubles, but games are only down in most categories by a few percent. What if I told you it's actually worse than that? You see, the difference that's been made up, right? What's made this only a few points down? Well, it's basically subscriptions making up the difference, because those have grown all year. But that comes
Their
from the
prices are going
bottom of
up
the spending
though. The
population, not
subscriptions
the
too.
top, right? It comes from people who are seeking more and more value for their increasingly limited dollars, whilst also spending less and less on premium games. And I think that is the big tension that people are feeling. We're in a situation where game marketing and traditional big games are basically out of reach to most of the audience, more so than perhaps ever in recent memory. But the companies haven't changed how they talk to players as a whole. A lot of the market has changed underneath those companies, but it's not really like it seems they've really changed their comms to match, and that is leading to people feeling ignored. It's leading to people facing demands that they cannot meet, and that's because the companies that used to be targeting them are now not targeting them. They are targeting someone with more disposable income.
That's why I refuse to buy any Nintendo stuff anymore. It is absolutely not affordable at all.
And that's a tough change to stomach. But by contrast, the $20 games on Steam are changing. Individual indie developers are watching game prices creep lower and lower, and they're just hoping that they will get enough sales
Wish
to
I could
succeed,
say what
because
game that
they
is. That looks so
cannot afford to
fun!
price higher and risk player blowback. Now, we're not quite at the mobile game space, where developers basically can't afford to price games as premium products anymore, but we are seeing a shift in how games are sold. And what that may lead to may not be great for all of us. Because if you can't ask players for more than $25 without facing comparisons to Silksong, then you may start having to scope your development very differently indeed. And that means that some traditional games simply would be out of reach. It could also mean that we do feel more and more nickel and dimed. So, it's not all doom and gloom. It actually seems there's a lot of vibrancy in the indie scene. But what we are seeing,
I agree. There's a lot more indie projects, it seems like. And I think we are getting better games that way.
is a
So I
changing
enjoy
market,
indie
changing
games more
behaviors,
than
and a AAA
AAA by
sector
far.
that is struggling to keep up pace with that change. So no wonder they're out of touch. And speaking of out of touch, Bungie. That's
And this was, I'm terrible with names, Bellar News. Please like and subscribe to him. If you like my reaction, please like and subscribe as well. This was a lot to take in for sure. I think this situation is, there's a lot of reasons and it's complicated, but it's really interesting and fascinating, which I love to talk about and I love to think about. So I'll also be searching for that game that he kept showing. It looks so fun. Well, thank you for watching, my little bats. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe the video if you like it. It would mean so much to me. And have fun, you little bat.